Greetings friends, Reformed Stoic here, back with another video. So, leading up to my release of Moggy Jr., February 1st, first professional hip-hop release, I wanted to start busting out the big guns on this channel. Now, I did just release my greatest hits of all my rap songs, which is very much not the big guns, that's the small guns. But I appreciate everyone for supporting. But there's a couple of different things today that started getting me thinking back to the Berklee College of Music days, which has definitely come up on my channel a few times. But I've never just like straight up gone for the clickbait title, My Experience at Berklee College of Music. And since I'm reaching for the big guns, we'll go ahead and bust that one out. So the second song on that compilation, called In the Same Place, that was actually recorded at the studios at Berklee College of Music. And I don't remember the exact circumstances that connected me with the lady who got me to do that session, but it just got me thinking of, like, you know, same old thing that always happens when you go down memory lane, like thinking about how I would do things differently, not really appreciating what you had, just, you know, hindsight is 2020. And actually, what I do remember is I was no longer attending Berklee at that time. It was very controversial for me. You know, I went for 2 years, 4 semesters. I was no longer able to afford it. I did not want to take out any more student loans. You know, funds had dried up. So what I ended up doing was moving into a house in Alston with, first it was 4 other people, and then eventually it was 5 other people as more people started to move in the house. But we all played in metal bands, and everybody else in the house was still attending Berklee College of Music. I would live in that house from the fall of 2011 to about the summer of 2014, so about 3 years. And just a very interesting situation, you know, kind of awkward when all of your roommates are continuing to go to Berklee. That's how I met all of them, was at Berklee. But as time went on, other people from the New England metal scene who never went to Berklee shifted in, and it didn't turn out to be such a big deal. And yeah, what started me on that was, like, I continued to do recording sessions at Berklee even when I wasn't attending there. In fact, I think all of the recording sessions I did at Berklee, like, you know, just people asking me to do stuff for their projects, was through the network I was building outside of Berklee. A couple of them being sound-alike projects, which I regret both of those immensely. So this video is going to start out just kind of a bunch of random stories about Berklee. I imagine I can attract a couple of new people to my channel through this video. You might not like any of my other content, but maybe you'll appreciate some of the things I have to say about Berklee. Disclaimer, this is not like me trashing Berklee. I don't know why anybody would think it would be. I have said a lot of things about, you know, my financial situation and looking back and regretting things, and on some level, arguably, there's a part of me that does regret going to Berklee, but it's not because it's a bad school. It's not because there's anything wrong with it. So I won't get too tied up in that. I'm not here to trash Berklee. I've made some comments in the past that maybe I wish I would have did things different, that I resent certain things about money, like I didn't have enough money, and pretty much everybody else that I can think of there did. But anyway, it's going to be a bunch of random stories, and then I'll kind of trail off into, you know, some more of my general thoughts about if you should go there and how things are there. But let's see. So yeah, let's start with the sound-alike projects. I would really recommend, if you're going to Berklee and somebody asks you to do a sound-alike project, you're probably going to have the same train of thought as me, especially because both of these, I think both of these was after, you know, in that same period when I was no longer attending. So I was very, like, kind of, I don't want to say desperate, but I was very eager to continue participating in Berklee stuff, even though I wasn't still going. And there's quite a bit of stories I have about that time. But the sound-alike projects is when people in the MP&E major, the music engineering major, they try to recreate a song to sound exactly like the original, which through my experience ends up being kind of cheesy sometimes, especially when this engineer asks somebody else to kind of be the star of their project. So one incident where I think I'm a little bit in the right there was when somebody asked me as a rapper to sound like Eminem and do the song Cleaning Out My Closet. And a lot of people in our circle at the time, including me, is like, dude, why did you pick this song? This is like a weird, emotional song from Eminem. There's so many other songs you could have picked that would have been a lot more fun. Like, yes, I'm the real Slim Shady. Please stand up. Please stand up. But no, he picks Cleaning Out My Closet from Eminem. And, you know, this is my early years as a rapper, and it's very difficult to, like, not even just as a white rapper, just in general. When you tell people you're a rapper, there's a lot of implications behind that. It's very difficult to have that confidence. Something that I've noticed continuing to have done it on and off throughout the years. I really came into my own, I feel like, these last 4 or 5 years. But back then, it was difficult. We'll just leave it at that. So I'm doing this Eminem song, and in the studio, this guy, he keeps coming back into the studio. He's like, yeah, can you just try to sound like more like the track? Can you just try to sound like more like the track? And he has kind of this, like, annoyed, kind of like, you know, when you can tell that somebody's not necessarily trying to make it obvious they're annoyed by you, but it's just kind of shining through. Like, he could tell during the session that I wasn't knocking it out of the park. Like, I was failing to sound like Eminem. Pretty much everything about this I regret. And the next one I regret. Everything about sound-alike projects, guys, is what I'm telling you, is like, you might be like, yeah, this will be great for my resume. This is a great opportunity to be involved at Berklee. You know, there's a lot of ways to be involved at Berklee, as you'll see as my story goes on. And these ones, I would really think about it. I would really think about it before you commit. So I can tell these annoyed to me while I'm recording this. How does that song even go, man? I'm cleaning out my closet, and it's just some cringe emotional stuff about killing people or whatever. It's really not like most people's fan favorite song from Eminem. So we get through it with full knowledge that he didn't really seem especially happy with it. And, you know, I'm not a terrible rapper out here. I'm a rapper slash drummer. I was going to Berklee to play drums, not to be a rapper, but that was something I was kind of developing at the same time. I had been rapping since my senior year, very beginning of my senior year in high school. I got a MacBook, I opened up GarageBand, I made a beat, I rapped over it. It started very organically. And I had friends around me who were freestyling. So that's kind of how it started. So we get this song done, and then, you know, me being like, yeah, I did something at Berklee with people, I'm still involved. You know, this actually, I think I was still going to Berklee for this one. For this one, I believe I was still going to Berklee. Because it's just kind of lining up in my head how this played out. So I posted on social media to be like, yeah, look what I did, everybody. And just think about other people's perspective. Like, oh, this wannabe rapper dude did a cover of an Eminem song. And it's like a really cringe Eminem song. And even one of my friends like passively aggressively posted on his Facebook, like who the hell does a cover of Eminem? And, you know, so it kind of came off to people like I was doing some cringe, like, yeah, I'm covering Eminem when I'm really doing a favor for somebody. And he told me that he got a bad grade on the project because I didn't sound enough like Eminem. So the other one is even worse. The other one, like, deeply makes me cringe. Because it's one thing to blow it as a rapper. It's like, you know, arguably being a rapper at all, I'm blowing it from a lot of people's perspective. But the other one was on drums. And this one really bothers me. And anybody who may or may not be lurking from my past in Berklee, they're going to be like, oh, he's coping. Because people think that, like, this really says something about me as a musician. So this is when I was no longer attending Berklee. This is a guy who was a drummer in bands that, one of the main bands that rehearsed in my house. And he was an MP&E major at Berklee, I believe. And this was his sound-alike project. And he was doing... It's a lie into night, take my hand, off to never, never land. We're doing Enter Sandman by Metallica. Sound-alike project has to sound exactly like the album. And this, this could spiral off into a whole rant about death metal. I was a blast beat technical metal drummer at the time. The way it worked for me is I was all about like Behemoth and Nile and like bomb blasts and blast beats, and I was pretty quick blast beat drummer. That's kind of how my name kind of kept circulating through certain parts of Berklee, because I was a little bit faster at blast beating and double bass than some of the metal drummers that were still attending Berklee. But we'll get into my ego and stuff as time goes on there, because believe me, there's no end to the amount of checks for your ego, and I'll just give you a little preview of that right now. In line with what I'm saying, I was surrounded by people who were listening to like Veil of Maya, Born of Osiris, Periphery, stuff that was a lot more rhythmically complex, less just and more except stuff that's like so polyrhythmic that it's kind of hard for me to like give an example of, like yeah, I'm screwing it up. Polyrhythmic shit that's hard for me to just do on the fly like that. I have to really think about it. I was like a pure blast beat guy, and I was surrounded by a lot of like djenty people, and that would kind of be my introduction to djent. And I feel like I was just so Dunning-Kruger about it, and I had such like a fire of just like self-belief and passion and desperation and dreams that I was like, trying to think about the best way to kind of like be delusionally egotistical and act like I was better than everybody. It's like, oh, well, I play fast double bass and Periphery plays slow double bass, so that's all that matters. Don't worry, down the line I would start to understand like how much better so many people were than me. But anyway, I digress. The point is that I hear him say Metallica, oh, Enter Sandman, Metallica, that will be easy. Now, there's a lot of people who talk crap about Lars Ulrich and Metallica. I will say, and a lot of that because of this story, that you should definitely have respect for like Lars Ulrich and like rhythmic placement and orchestration. What I notice about Lars Ulrich's drumming is that he's good at creating like syncopated hits. And I think about Metallica riffs, all the way back to like Ride the Lightning, and why they were so influential for metal. Like, they're probably like the most influential metal band. I really feel like they were one of the innovators before prog, before technical death metal, before, people who were obviously more syncopated. They were very early innovators of syncopation in metal, and I think a lot of that is because of Lars Ulrich. So, there's a hit section at the end of Enter Sandman, which I took the time to write out and just read my notation, because it can be a little bit tricky to memorize if your dad is visiting. And so my dad was visiting, and I didn't take it seriously, and I didn't rehearse enough, and I didn't even have enough. I just wasn't in that place back then where I was so attentive that I was realizing in my rehearsals that I wasn't prepared for the recording session. So I show up to this recording session where a bunch of Berklee metal musicians are there, and it was really embarrassing, bro. And I blew the hit sections at the end of Enter Sandman. And I just, in the moment, was like, okay, whatever, that's that. And he was really unhappy with me, and it came out through the grapevine that he was talking some trash about me after that, because somebody in my house kind of liked to, if people would gossip about me, he would tell me about it. If I would gossip about somebody else, he would tell them about it. He liked to kind of sow seeds of division between people. I don't know what that is. Maybe it was something about his satanic ideology that he wrote about so much in his death metal lyrics. But anyway, we're not trying to stir up musician drama here. Believe you me, there'll be plenty of that. I looked at the time because I realized like it's taken me a long time to get through these stories. This might be quite the lengthy video. So that's that. 15 minutes on sound-alike projects. My recommendation, don't do them. Even if you're like, ooh, I just showed up to Berklee and I have all 7s and 8s and I'm a genius savant. I just look at a page of music and I write the next Mozart symphony. Like, it still might not be worth your time to do somebody's sound-alike project. My thing is like, that's your homework. You're a drummer. Why don't you get in there and sound like Lars Ulrich? It's like, oh, no, man. Like, I'm the engineer. It's like, okay, you got to really know what you're signing up for. You got to sound exactly like Eminem, which that one was kind of stupid. I feel like I didn't do anything wrong for that one. For the other one, you got to sound exactly like Lars Ulrich. That was my bad. My dad was visiting. I didn't take it seriously. I'm capable of playing Enter Sandman. I made a point to learn that song note for note after that because that really kind of like fucked with my ego. Okay, other stories. So stuff about me as a rapper. I was doing employment through Berklee. I was doing student employment. We would like, look for spare drum parts and tune the drum sets in the practice rooms. One of the things that I got to do was, I can't remember what they didn't call it auditing it. I mean, I just kind of like sat in at a clinic. I went to this hip hop clinic for this hip hop class that they had, and I sat in the audience and watched. And I basically like gave this like really nasty glare at the stage. Like I was just like making that nasty like I'm judging you face. And the guy who was the teacher of that class kind of confronted me after that. Not like super aggressive, but he's like, hey man, I saw you watching the show. Like, you looked like you didn't really enjoy what you were hearing. I was like, oh, no, man. Like, I didn't mean to be like that. And the thing behind that is like, I'm a rapper. And I started to think, man, I kind of wish I would have taken this class. And I was jealous. I was jealous of it. Was I super impressed with what I was hearing? Not especially. And then you got to keep in mind, like, it's one thing me delusional as a drummer. Ultimately, I was a pretty good drummer. It was a whole nother level of delusion, like me as a rapper. I don't even really think I was, like, very good at all back then. I had some kind of, like, experimental avant-garde potential. A lot of the people who really liked my rap back then didn't even listen to rap. But, yeah, I was kind of jealous, and I was sitting there, I was watching, and I just had that, like, normie glare. Guys, there's a lot of like unhappy dudes in their early 20s. If you're going to go to Berklee when you're like 18, 19, 20, like if you're not like Giga Chad, if you're not some big like amazing Adonis looking guy, you're probably going to have some really socially awkward times. You're probably going to like be invisible to women and you're probably going to like have some hard times. You should really try to not have that like negative vibe, because that doesn't help with anything. So that was that. I was a part of a spoken word, like slam poetry class. This class was really something, man. I feel like there was this weird pressure in the class for people to open up. And you hear about this in a lot of stuff. Like it could be at church. I remember being at this Baptist after hours thing, and everybody goes around and talks. And I feel like there's some kind of pressure to like cry or like say something really emotional. And I'm watching other people do that at this church thing, and I'm like, this is weird. And then you answer, and you're all defensive, and you're like, well, my car's having some trouble, and I want everybody to pray that my car works. And people are like, you're not opening up, buddy. And that was the vibe at this spoken word slam poetry thing. And then, here's me, like every single situation with rap, I make really weird rap, okay? I still think I kind of make weird rap, but I've really come into my own, and I think so much of it is being confident. It's one thing to be like, hey man, this weird-ass song, I fucking made that, and here it is. If you don't like it, whatever. But when I was like 19, because that's about how old I was. I was 19, I dropped out at 20. This was my last semester at Berklee, right before I dropped out. I was 19, and it's like, hey man, you want to listen to, rip off your eyelashes, and I'm not saying that reflects I don't know, like, hey, you want to listen to this really fucking weird song from like a weird guy? That makes it really, really, really weird. So when you have weird experimental rap and you're insecure about it, that's hard. That's tough. So there's that. There's me, and then there's this spoken word slam poetry class. It eventually, they broke me, dude. And I'm thinking about the audience when I'm up there. Like, one time I got beat up in the back of a car. I made some like poetry rap about how somebody beat me up in the back of a car, which is a true story that maybe I can get into a different video. And I was like on the verge of getting emotional, and I just imagined people in the audience like, yikes, buddy. It's so fucking cringe. But in my defense, just about everybody in that fucking class had some weird emotional breakdown in front of everybody, making like cringe poetry. And but I'm not saying that was a bad class. You know, this is Berklee College of Music education. We're reading articles. We're reading snippets. One of the things we were studying was Tupac's book, Concrete from a Rose. And it was a great class. I attribute probably some of my development as an artist to that class. But part of my development was making some cringe song. Yo, I got beat up in the back of a car one time, man, and it was hard, man. and I tried to go out with a girl in that class, and it was not happening, buddy boyos. Over. Okay, so that's another one. So, I mean, I could just really go on and on and on about random stories from Berklee, man. I look back at this song that I made in the same place. A lot of people are like, bro, this is a great song. I think it stands out from some of my other weird rap. Now, what happened, there's a story with that. This chick who I wrote that song for, she wanted to keep making music with me, okay? So she gives me another beat, and I wrote a song over that I remember a little bit about called Black Butterfly. And it was about social media, and it was about how I didn't like people judging me on Facebook. And so basically, Cringy Jr. wrote some like weird projecting song about how I'm a weirdo on social media over that song. And she's like, okay, send me the demo. It's like, here it is. Never heard back. Never heard back. Maybe, maybe she's still thinking about it. That was like over 10 years ago. You guys, being a musician, bro. So now we can start talking about like getting humbled and stuff. I did Guitar Center Drum Off in 2012, I believe. This was like about a year after, when I was living in the house. I was no longer attending Berklee. I placed second in Boston. I was the runner-up. Like, there was the first heat, and then there's the guy who won first place, Gospel Chops drummer, really great guy, really great drummer. I mean, maybe he's a nice guy. I feel like he was kind of a dick to me. He made fun of me in the beginning of his drum solo. He was like, hey, everybody, look at me, I'm Jake. Because I did this, like, open-closed roll that was like, up to my fastest roll. And I went before him, and then he went, he's like, hey, everybody, look at me, I'm Jake. And he did, like, a faster version. I mean, he didn't have faster singles than me or doubles, but he just did it a little bit faster. And now I get it, because it's like, in a Guitar Center Drum Off solo, it's not really a good idea to do an open-closed roll. Maybe, like, get through it really quick and get to the next thing. That idea in itself isn't really that interesting. Mine took a long time. It was like, duh, 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 duh. It was slower than that. I'm just getting through it. But he's like, hey, everybody, look at me, I'm Jake. And then he goes on to his drum solo. True story. He beat me, and then I got second place. And then we went to the next heat, and he won the whole thing, and I was the runner-up, if he couldn't make it. And guess what? He didn't make it, but nobody told me. Or actually, you know what? In that heat, there is no runner-up. In that heat, just whoever wins, wins. But I did get second place in the whole thing. Second place, Guitar Center Drum Off in Boston, where Berklee College of Music is. And as you can imagine, pretty much all the drummers competing were going to Berklee. So Now, that's a good segue into talking about ego. I, especially like that period when I was living in the house after I left, I really did kind of think highly of my playing ability. I was a death metal drummer, really fast single stroke roll, pretty fast blast beats. I played in a technical death metal band. Reddit roasted us and said, this is not technical death metal, it's metalcore. It's whatever, dude. From what I can tell now, pretty much anything is metalcore. Like, if you have any breakdowns, it's metalcore. You know, people would say that Rings of Saturn is metalcore. I would consider Rings of Saturn probably, like, modern tech death, which overlines with metalcore and has breakdowns. I don't really care anymore. When I listen to metal at this point, it's pretty much like Periphery, Architects, sometimes. I'm definitely more of a metalcore fan at this point. A lot less blast beats and double bass, a lot more syncopated breakdowns, Meshuggah type stuff. But anyway, guys, what's going to happen at Berklee is you're going to show up and you're going to wonder how good you are, and you might just get smacked down. You might get smacked down. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. I had positive early experiences at Berklee in regards to my skills. I had a very fast single-stroke roll, being a death metal drummer. I had some interesting competition. I was in Drum Lab 4. Man, when I was in Drum Lab 4, all the drummers in my class were sick. And we went to this guy's apartment where there was 2 drum sets set up. And we would roll blunts and just, like, have drum battles. And sometimes a guitar player would hang out with us and, you know, play some chords while we had drum battles. And I'll be honest, in the very beginning of that, I feel like everybody was smoking me. But there was a couple of little adjustments that I needed to make. Like, anybody who's played with other drummers and did this drum battle kind of context, when your timing is off at all, your real chops can't really show because you're nervous about your timing. After a couple of sessions, I started kind of like hanging with these guys. And as far as like who was the best, I feel like everybody kind of had their thing. This one dude, Jamie, he had the highest ratings. We did like transcriptions for Drum Lab of this song, Odd Elegy. We just had to play over the song. He did the transcription, and he played it exactly like the track. And one of the drum chair department guys walked by when he was playing, and he was like, through the window, which was like some cool, hip drummer nod that like he was killing it. I feel like he was probably the best of all of us. But we all kind of had our certain thing. There was a guy who had faster hands than me. We were sitting in circles, doing our fastest, you know, like blast, and mine was like, and then he, just out of nowhere, he makes this face, and he's like, and he did the flying fingers. I was like, oh shit, he's even faster. So he was kind of the crazy, faster guy. What I realized is that I was the best at sight reading. When we did the final, they all kind of gave me props for, there's this piece called The Audition. Now, I did practice it a bunch, so at that point it wouldn't really be sight reading, but I would just say like reading music in general. There's a lot of people who are all hung up on reading music. What I've realized over the years is like, it's hard to explain. It's like, it's better to not read music. Like when some of my hardest drum covers I have on YouTube, like Periphery, I'm reading a transcription that I made in whatever the program is that I use, and I print it out and I look at it. It would be a lot better if I just had it memorized. And some people will look at that and be like, whoa, dude, you can read music. And I'm like, yeah, but the best covers of that song on YouTube is drummers who just really feel it, and it's all locked in with the rhythmic memory. Even if it's a prog, even if it's like, you know, the Dance of Eternity from Dream Theater, like whatever you're playing, it's better to just have it memorized. There's a quote from Pat Metheny. This is such like a jazz thing. Pat Metheny being interviewed by Rick Beato, and he's talking about, you know, how these hot shot legendary jazz New Yorker guys, it's like, yeah, you know, and he's got a huge smile on his face the whole time. He's like, yeah, you know, we show up, we read through the chart, we play a little bit, and then we do the show that weekend. And then Rick Beato's like, so do you still have the music with you when you're performing? He's like, music? What do you mean? He's like, On the bandstand, bro? Like implying that having sheet music on the bandstand during the performance is like, what are you even talking about? I mean, that's the level. I'm at least good enough to realize that, like, bro, at the highest level, people aren't really reading music. You know, it's like, are you saying I'll be able to read music? I'm saying that when you're ready, you won't have to. That's pretty much my take on reading music. For anybody who gives a shit, I don't know, some music people might show up to this video and be like, oh, he thinks he's good. Like, and that's the whole thing that I'm trying to get at, guys. As far as like thinking you're good at Berklee, I had some ups and downs. Okay, here's another story. Early into that Drum Lab 4 class, one time the rhythm section of Sheryl Crow was sitting in, watching. And I had completely forgotten about the homework that was assigned. And it was learning this, like, Daphnis Prieto, like, 5/4 clave feel song. And I completely forgot to even work on it at all. And one by one, everybody in the class, he played the song and every drummer played along to it. I was the only drummer in the class who, like, wasn't prepared, and I just blew it, you know? Like, bum, 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 it's a bum, 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 and I'm just like, and I blew it for like 20 seconds, and Sheryl Crow's rhythm section was just like looking at me, and they look at the next drummer. So I blew it in front of Sheryl Crow's rhythm section. Add that. I swear, guys, that Enter Sandman sound-alike session, nothing has ever been worse than that. For anybody who lurks and knows about that, that is the biggest L I think I have ever taken in music. That made me feel really bad, dude. Like, imagine, like, Lars Ulrich, like, looking at you like you're a piece of shit. Like, yeah, see, it's supposed to be like, it's like, shut up, Lars Ulrich. My dad was visiting. So, as far as your ego goes at Berklee, I had some epic ups and downs, but after all was said and done, my time there, and as I was like playing in metal bands and becoming a part of the New England metal scene, I started to kind of think that I was the shit. I started to kind of think, yeah, man, I can play along the Nile, and yeah, dude, I can double bass, bro, and if you have a fast single stroke roll, you can play anything. I can play periphery easy if I wanted to. I just don't really fucking feel like it right now. I learned. Eventually I learned. But there's kind of a beauty in that. It makes people not like you, okay? It makes people not like you. So when you feel that way, you should probably just, like, kind of keep quiet about it. But comparing it to as time went on, when I was, like, 25, 26, and I started trying to cover more Meshuggah and periphery, I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually, like, not shit. When that happens, it can kind of be devastating, especially if you're pretty good. Everybody who goes to Berklee, for the most part, is good on some level. And I'll tell you what, man. Another channel that I watch, shout out to Jordan Owen? Jordan Owen? I'll have to double check that. I'm pretty sure that's his name. He's another Berklee alumni. He went there a lot earlier than I did. Things changed over the years. I got to study with Mike Mangini like a year before he joined Dream Theater. I was like, I think he did like maybe 1 or 2 more semesters of lessons, and then he left to join Dream Theater. But yeah, you know, it's when I was still living in Boston after going to Berklee that they bought out Boston Conservatory, which there was a lot of whispers like, yo, man, I hear that Boston Conservatory is like way more hardcore than Berklee. I've heard whispers that Juilliard is way more hardcore than Berklee. Berklee, this is my first, I mean, hey, am I allowed to have any critiques without, you know, somebody coming to sue me or something? I have a feeling that maybe some of the higher-ups at Berklee maybe heard about my channel and maybe they don't like me. I'm sorry, it's just, I exist, it's what it is. I'm still out here trying to do things. I do want to make the My Experience at Berklee College of Music video. I feel like I'm entitled to do that. I spent a lot of money. I got a lot of student loans. I didn't spend any money because I didn't have any freaking money. And every summer I went home to save up money, it wasn't shit. I worked the whole summer and maybe make like a couple $1,000 and and it goes off into a black hole to pay for Berklee. That's part of why I have such a bad work ethic, according to other people at this point. But what I will say, maybe my one critique about Berklee, it's a big name that has really, absorbed other conservatories around it. I think as time went on, they became a little bit less, I don't think prestigious is the word that I'm looking for, but it got to be a little bit easier to get into Berklee. Don't let it go to your head just because you got into Berklee. Now, I will say there was a drummer that I was watching on YouTube like a few years before I got in, and he made it very public that he auditioned, and he didn't get in. And I was like, I think this is like a pretty solid drummer. I wonder what it was. So little advice. You're trying to get into Berklee. I did a drum solo that I performed at State Solo Ensemble. My sophomore year, I got a 1, which is the best you can get without, being the command performance or getting an honorable mention for a snare drum solo. My junior year, I got a 1 and I got an honorable mention. I lost to a mallet player who did a 4 mallet solo. Basically, that means I was the best snare drummer in state. Okay, moving on. My senior year, I did a drum set solo. I got a 1, but that was that. That's the best. You scored the highest in your performance, but other people had more impressive or harder performances. So I did that same drum solo that I did at State, and I had music on the bandstand. Pat Metheny. I'm not talking shit to Pat Metheny. Pat Metheny could kill me by playing jazz. He could just be like, and he could literally kill me just playing jazz. But yeah, I had my music on the bandstand, and I say that because it's like when you're playing a solo like that, it's a lot more impressive to not have your music. Like if you want to get the command performance, you want to. The older drummer in my school taught me this in Kodiak. You look at your music for a second when you're getting ready to perform, and then you close it and put it down, and the judges are like, oh, he's got it memorized. I never did that. I've never done that before. It's a little bit of a weakness for me in the past that I'm too reliant on reading the music. So that's a thing. That's something to keep in mind. But when you're auditioning to Berklee, it doesn't really matter. I had my music on the bandstand, and I did a drum solo, and it wasn't mind-blowingly difficult. That got me into Berklee. They asked me some questions like, do you understand basic things about intervals and chords? And let's do some ear training exercises. And I was an absolute musical chud. I was a drummer's... You know how people are like, you're not a drummer, you're a percussionist. Or what do you call a guy who hangs out with a bunch of musicians? A drummer. Yeah, I was a chuddy drummer drumming along to Linkin Park and Blink-182 and death metal. And I was a chud, dude. I was not good at intervals or ear training. And I still got in. It's really not that hard to get into Berklee. I have a feeling it's getting easier every single day. That's my one critique. I have a feeling that it's just easier. Why? Because more people signing up, more money. They bought out Boston Conservatory, so I imagine it's bigger than it's ever been. And it's just, it used to be kind of like the high creme de la creme, discreet conservatory with a big name. Now it's kind of like Disney World Berklee. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think everybody knows what I mean by that. It's probably easier to get in because they make a lot more money now. It's expanded. It's been very long-winded, guys. So other thoughts on Berklee. I actually, in Anchorage, leading up to going there, I got to see Shadows Fall. Their drummer, Jason Bittner, he's a Berklee graduate. And I got to talk to him backstage, because I was going to Berklee. You get a lot of this. I was working at a music store in Anchorage, and somebody came up to me, some parents with their kids, we want our son to go to Berklee. It's like, when you first go to Berklee, it feels like a really big deal. 10 years later, it's like, I probably shouldn't have gone. Jason Bittner, all he said to me when I was asking him about Berklee, he's like, it's really what you make of it. And that's pretty much all he said to me. And if I could expand on that, you need to be kind of a serious person if you want to go there. I made a video hashing out my entire life, saying I was done talking about my past forever, which hasn't really been the case. But what I said in that video is that I wish that I had never gone back to my hometown since I went to Berklee. Like, I was kind of desperate to, like, take the clout from Berklee and then go back home, be like, hey, girls, I go to Berklee, and try to get laid. And it worked a couple of times, and that's why I did it. I should have, like, really been in it to win it, man. I should have stayed there every summer and got jobs. There was, like, a little place where people went to jam there. I never went once. I never went to the Jazz Jam Club once. I should have been there every single night. The Berklee jams, like, hey, bro, we should jam, we should jam, we should jam. I did do a decent amount of that. That usually goes nowhere, and it's usually because you're not that good. Like, there's really brutal, harsh truths, man. And some of them were kind of just flying over my head. There was, like, brutal moggings happening to me, and I was just like, what? I'm the best. I go to Berklee. Like, I couldn't really tell. I was Dunning-Kruger. I couldn't tell how viciously I was being destroyed sometimes by people. And a lot of it is, like, if you're not jazz, like, I don't play jazz, dude. I'm a metal drummer. I'm a rock drummer. I'm not really about jazz. Like, yeah, that's major cope that will, like, help you survive at Berklee. You might want to consider before you go to Berklee, like, how about jazz you are. If you're just trying to, like, milk the connections and meet people who you think are going to be famous and try to be super popular and start, like, a power pop band, be the next John Mayer. I think John Mayer is really, really, really good at jazz. I'm pretty sure. I'm not, like, an expert, but I think he is good at jazz. On some level, most of the time, if you're not good at jazz, you're just not really that good, is kind of what it comes down to. I low-key got a lot better in, like, the late 2010s because I started focusing a lot more on jazz, Tony Williams, up-tempo ride. I was a mixed bag. Where was I going with this? Like, so should you go to Berklee? Number one, is your family rich? Can you pay for it? No issue. East Coast, mom and dad got it. Mommy's a lawyer. Daddy's a doctor. That's number one. That's number one, guys. If you are taking out student loans and you're not getting a scholarship, that's where you really just, how bad do you want it? And sometimes you really, 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 really want it. I really, 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 really wanted it. And in that video I made about, like, I should have never gone back to my hometown, I do think that I was good enough to where it could have been worth it for me to go there. I shouldn't have been smoking weed. Now, it's interesting because everybody smoked weed and drank, and you want to be social, but probably, like, quit weed and only drink, because drinking can lead to gigs and getting laid, but don't make an ass of yourself. So it's like, I shouldn't have been a pothead, okay? I should have been a social butterfly, going to the jams every night, staying there during the summers, getting a job, trying to get a reliable job, trying to make all this stuff work. Now, paying for the apartment, but that was just kind of covered back then, you know? But yeah, I was subletting the apartment during the summers, so maybe, arguably, I was saving a little bit, but try to get, like, a stable job, playing gigs. Like, you gotta really take it seriously. I can sit here and try to lay it all out for you, but if you just want the college experience, which is, you know, some of what I've covered on my channel, like, I never got laid at Berklee, ever. There was a couple of girls. There was one girl who fell into my bed, and she was I do music therapy. She was a music therapy major at Berklee, and man, I'll tell you what. We'll save that one. She maybe got with some other guys in my house too. Anyway, yeah, I never got laid at Berklee, dude. If you're just trying to have the college experience, go to a regular-ass university that's not going to break the bank, dude. It can't be about, you know, I didn't get laid enough in high school, so I'm going to get laid at Berklee. That's not what it's about, dude. It's a sausage fest. It's, you're probably not mature enough. Like, you really might want to consider, okay, I got accepted to Berklee at 18. Maybe, like, work on a boat or an oil rig, or spend like a year saving up money, or a couple of years saving up money. You want that perfect balance, because there is something to be said for being young when you go there, like really young. Like, just for example, take a year. You got a really good job opportunity to where you can have a $50,000, $60,000 year working at home, get some preliminary study going. Let's say that you live on the East Coast. Take the train up. Go visit Berklee campus. Go talk to people. Maybe you're a content creator. Make a little video. Hey man, I'm wondering what your top 10 favorite artists are. Or like, what are the top 10 most relevant artists? Or you could do something like, what are your personal 10 favorite artists? Maybe more like 5 artists. Your personal favorite 5 artists, and the 5 artists that are most important to your studies at Berklee. And little do they know, it's not just for your video, it's for your notes, for you. It's like, oh man, like when I was there, Kurt Rosenwinkel, Avishai Cohen, Tigran Hamsian, guys like that, you know, Pat Metheny. So they're listing off these guys that you wouldn't have really heard of unless this like Berklee cat told you about them. That's kind of another point, is the biggest thing that I got from going to Berklee. I wouldn't have heard of a lot of these guys. What I noticed comparing Berklee music departments to like other, like I was playing jazz at UNLV for a little bit. People are like, oh yeah, you know, Miles Davis. And gosh, I'm just rusty on jazz right now. It's embarrassing, dude. There's music people coming here and I can't think of I can't think of anybody's name. Charlie Parker, just like the basics, you know, the classics. Elvin Jones, the drummer, Papa Roach, which is his name, Max Roach. They're naming off like the old school classics. You learn a lot more about the contemporary cats at Berklee. Your Kurt Rosenwinkels, your Pat Metheny's, Bill Stewart. I mean, he was already kind of old school by then. The guys that are like really hip and happening and in the now. That's what I really noticed. The kind of leg up that I perceived myself to have is that I knew about really contemporary, modern, cutting edge jazz cats because of who I was talking to and because of my studies at Berklee. So for example, you have 1 year, you save up a lot of money, you go talk to some people on the Berklee campus. I mean, you gotta be a serious person, dude. You gotta be a serious person. I came from Kodiak, Alaska. I partied. I experimented with drugs. I was like dipping my toes into some cocaine and stuff, allegedly, like right leading up to going to Berklee, and it's not it's not ideal, dude. And you'll cope and you'll be like, oh dude, all the best jazz musicians, like there's a story like Chick Corea was smoking a blunt on campus and got expelled. Is that what happened? I think that's what I heard. He got expelled for smoking a blunt on campus. You're not Chick Corea, bro. By the way, I saw Chick Corea with Gary Burden on mallets and Antonio Sanchez on drums. And I saw an Antonio Sanchez drum clinic at Berklee. Who's that drum and bass guy? Man, I got to see him doing a drum clinic at Berklee. And that was after the first two was when I was going. What the hell is this guy's name, dude? The guy with like the curly hair, plays drum and bass. Really sick. He's like the drum and bass, the original drum and bass drummer. I can't think of his name. But I wasn't even going to Berklee at that point. I kind of just got to sneak in, you know, to his clinic. And staying connected to the campus was great. And you could probably take advantage of some of that kind of stuff. I'm really just bumbling on and on. You could take advantage of some of that stuff not even going there. Like, theoretically, you could live in Boston, go to a different school, and get a degree that's, like, you know, guaranteed to make you some money. Like, if you got the brains to go to MIT, go to MIT, but you also play music at a high level, like, go to that same jam club. Go to the jam clubs that the Berklee students play at. And if you're better than some of the students, they'll be like, hey, bro, like, what's your number? Let's hook up. The best people there. I mean, Shredding is a universal language. Being good is a universal language. And then that's the thing that people who haven't gone really worry about. But he went to Berklee and I didn't. Bro, that shit does not matter at all. Like I was just saying. Universal language. You can either play or you can't. And what happens is it does seem like people who go to Berklee and do good, they don't just get ones and kind of just get shooed through the program. I had a 5 in all 4s, by the way. That's where I left off. I'll bet if I went now, I could get 6s. Maybe 7s. Maybe 8s. 6s. Maybe 5s. I think I could get higher ratings now. Anyway, the point is, playing is a universal language. If you're good, you're good. It doesn't matter if you went to Berklee. People who go to Berklee, they learn specific vocabulary. It's all on the internet. The best possible way to do it is if you're a drummer, look up Mark Juliana. Okay? Look up a drummer like Mark Juliana and Bill Stewart and Antonio Sanchez. Listen to albums they played on. Watch videos of them playing live and transcribe it. Okay? It takes a certain level of transcription ability to do that. Learn how to transcribe. You can probably learn online. Learn how to transcribe some Bill Stewart, transcribe some Antonio Sanchez, Mark Juliana, and then try to comprehend what's going on. You might stumble across some weird shit like tuplet rhythms and rhythmic displacement. From the instrumental side of it, that's what you do. You take the greats, a lot of people who went to Berklee, and transcribe what they do and just learn to play like them, bro. And then you got it. Sometimes you can hire teachers who used to maybe teach at Berklee and now they don't, or Berklee graduates to be your teacher. You could get me to be your drum teacher, dude, and we could hang out and have half-hour drum lessons, and I can teach you a lot. And that really says something, because I'm not woo, I'm hanging out with Pat Metheny, music on the bandstand? Yeah, I know, Pat Metheny, let's shred, dude. I'm pretty good, all right? I'm all right. I could teach you a lot. I feel like, do I think a drummer could just study with me instead of going to Berklee? Hell yeah. And maybe I'm crazy. Whatever. Seriously, though. If not me, somebody else. Somebody better than me. Some drummer who, went to conservatory, maybe not Berklee, maybe they went to Juilliard. Maybe they went to a school that isn't, super fancy and expensive and renowned. I'll tell you what, look up the band Dirty Loops. I can't remember the name of the conservatory they went to, but it wasn't Berklee, dude. It was some, secret society tier music school in, Sweden or something, and those guys can shred, dude. Look up their drummer's drum solo. Holy crap, bro. Tuplets all over the place. And somebody transcribed that shit, and he nailed it. I think we're coming to the end of the video, guys. Yeah, 52 minutes on my experience at Berklee. Wow. Maybe we're not bringing out the big guns just yet, because this is kind of a disaster of a video. I did have fun reminiscing, going through the past, busting out the stories. I did have fun going to Berklee. It was a very, very serious decision. I have $18,500 in student loans. My life is kind of crazy. That's why I'm hyping up Moggy Jr. so much, dude, because I'm still trying to be a rapper in my 30s. Anyway, my life decisions and quality and potential aside, it's a great school. You will learn if you go there. If you have potential, you will get good. It's just what it is, dude. I meet people and I'm like, hey, I went to Berklee, and then I play with them, and yeah, I only went for 2 years. Now, what happens is people will say, oh, dude, most people don't graduate from Berklee, and it doesn't matter. The people they're talking about are people who got a gig, and I met some of these people. One of the guys was playing with, there's the Marsalis brothers. There's Wynton Marsalis, and then there's Branford Marsalis. I think he was playing with Branford Marsalis, his drummer. And I went to a jam that he was at. Big black dude, really good. The guys they're talking about are people who get gigs while they're at Berklee. And it's okay, well, I'm already getting gigs with the top musicians, so I'm going to head out. Those are the guys they're talking about. Me, running out of money and playing in death metal bands that never went anywhere, that's not what they're talking about. So you do want to plan on graduating. If you don't think you're going to be able to afford to graduate, don't go. If you think you're going to have $20,000 in student loans, don't go. If money is a big deal for you, just being real, not trying to offend anybody who maybe comes from more money than me. If your family's middle class, don't go. If you're upper middle class, don't go. If you don't get scholarships, don't go. For the most part, I would say don't go. I still might make it. Mocky Jr. might change the whole world, dude. Hey, look at my last few shorts. I got more views on my last few shorts than I've gotten in anything. I'm still out here trying to do things. In spite of everything. In spite of it all. Maybe someday I won't regret going to Berklee. But I've lived a very crazy life, man. And, I'm not like your average representative of who goes to Berklee. But I'm just saying, for the most part, guys, it's almost like a challenge to you. It's like, don't go because you can't handle this life that I'm living. You need stability. And there will be sacrifices, bro. Like, if things get hard for you, like they did for me, you'll struggle with women, you'll struggle with money. Other people will be having a secure life, getting married, making money, and you'll be behind. And you'll still be trying to do big things. Number one priority should be money. If you are blessed and you come from money, you could consider it. But you should probably just go to MIT or Harvard or somewhere else. Okay? That's like being president someday versus playing in a jazz band that you're probably not going to be Branford Marsalis, dude. You're probably not going to be Pat Metheny, okay? You might decide, you know what, I think I do want music on the bandstand. You're probably going to want the music on the bandstand, bro. Music is brutal. Music is kind of like IQ, okay? Like, some people just shred, and some people just aren't at that level. Last story I'll give you, I had a gospel bass player roommate for a while, big black guy, and he was very outgoing, social butterfly, and he had me come with him, and we were just walking around the jam rooms, knocking on doors in the practice rooms, and we walked into this practice room with these, 18-year-old kids, piano player, bass player, guitar player, maybe a trumpet player. It was for the most part, it was a rhythm section. They were good. These are 7s, 8s. Another one of my friends was there, and he kind of commented on it. He was a really brilliant bass player who could cover Pat Metheny on guitar. Or not Pat Metheny. Andy McKee is this hand style guitar player. He did hand style and bass. Really, really good musician, and he's telling me, he's like, bro, these kids are 18 years old. They probably got 7s and 8s, and they're going to probably live in New York and play jazz this time next year. I sat in and played with these guys on drums, and I wasn't messing up. I wasn't doing bad, but here's what I learned about jazz when I did that. In my humble town, Kodiak, Alaska, I learned through time there was kind of a naive perception about jazz. It's like rock music is really flashy, big drum solos, John Bonham. Rock music is showing off and flashy, man. Jazz is laying back, and the drummer's in the background, and you'll hear that and you'll think, okay, so they're calling out standards, we're doing Autumn Leaves, it's time to really lay back. And this was a trio setting, piano, a little bit more than that. Was maybe piano, bass, guitar. It was just a rhythm section. In that kind of setting, at Berklee, playing jazz, bro, when you're doing Autumn Leaves or to the uninitiated, you're basically showing off the entire time. You're comping the entire time. When you're doing a drum solo, you want it to be impressive. I compared my playing to the drummer that was with them, that was one of those moments when it's wow, he's good too. It's yeah, buddy, you're really good. He was amazing. And I compared his playing to mine. His was a lot flashier, a lot more going on. He added a lot more. You know, just piano, guitar, bass, and drums. There wasn't that many people there, so you want to like add a lot. Jazz is like a lot going on. Depending on the setting, when it's a big band, that's kind of when you lay back a little bit more. But then you think about like the Buddy Rich big band or the Chick Corea electric band. But yeah, what I learned about jazz from that moment is like it's the art of motion. A lot of stuff is going on, and this idea that, oh, you know, this isn't rock and roll, this is jazz. You got to lay back. That is not, especially like bebop, trio stuff. It's not how it works. And I learned that. Whew, this is definitely a rant. This is definitely a rant, guys. This is the only video I'll ever make on this topic. I went, I came, I saw, I got my ass handed to me. I had some victories, I had some losses. It's a big part of what made me who I am today. Hopefully someday, you know, after Moggy Jr. blows up and I'm a crazy famous rapper, Berklee will pay me to come down there and teach you guys a thing or two about jazz music. Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm doing some of that up-tempo Tony Williams stuff now. I spent a long time on that, man. I spent a long time with the up-tempo Tony Williams ride. I'm out here, man. It's been a long time since I played jazz with people, since I was at UNLV in like 2018. But the jazz is in my heart at this point. So I'll leave it at that, guys. Berklee College of Music. It's a place. I learned a lot there. If you go, which I kind of recommend you don't unless you're rich or super duper duper talented, you're the guy who shits all over everybody, or you're a super serious person, you're super driven, you know exactly what you're doing. If you go, don't be a pothead, don't be a shut-in, don't be a loser, don't be awkward, don't glare at people. Get over it if you're 18 and you're not sleeping with a bunch of girls there, because you're probably not going to unless you're the shit. It will set the pace for a very make or break life. High stakes. If you win big. If you lose, just kidding. Moggy Jr. drops February 1st. God bless you guys. I'll see you for the next one. Peace.